If you enjoy listening to inspirational stories from people just like us, facing the fear and doing it anyway, then you're in the right place. My name is Claire Hill, and this is the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 23. Thank you for listening. First off, I'm still can't believe I got to 23 episodes. I know I've said it before, but you get to that point where you're like, I'm going to start a podcast. Are you, Claire? How are you going to do that? I have no idea. I managed it though, and here we are. Today I want to talk about creating warrior energy when you've got a heavy heart. You are all aware with what's going on in the Ukraine at the minute, which is causing us all to have a heavy heart, especially if you're Ukrainian. Feel very powerless to what we can do to help. But I don't know about anybody else, but it just feels like the world is near enough the entire world as far as I can see. And maybe it's the optimistic lens that I look at life through, that it feels like the world is a bit united on the fact that Russia's it's not all the Russians, isn't it? It's Putin is an arsehole. He's a dickhead, isn't he? Let's be fair, he's worse than a dickhead. We all know what word he is. I feel like we're a united front. Maybe, like I say, maybe it's my optimistic lens. But as well as, I better say quickly, I am planning on raising some money to go to the Ukraine. I'm working on a few things and working out which charity to best for it to go to. I think I'm going to donate it to the Ukrainian Red Cross, but I'm speaking to somebody just to check who is almost an expert. She's Ukrainian and an author. She's brilliant. Just checking on where it should go. So that if you want more information on that, follow at Vivid Wire. I'm going to do some wire art. I'm also going to donate some power hours for small business CEOs over at the Vivid Club as well, and all of the proceeds from all of those sales will go to the Ukraine charities. But this week I had a heavy heart because it was the anniversary of my dad passing away. Now, you may have listened to episode 1, but in episode 1 I did talk a little bit about my dad. Before my dad passed away, I was very creative. And I made shoes and bags out of paper. I wrote books and stories. I did a weekly newspaper. I made a shopping centre out of paper. I literally wore these paper shoes out. I had cold feet. But I was extremely creative back then. And when my dad passed away, my mum was pregnant with my brother. She was 9 weeks pregnant with my brother. I'm about 2 or 3 months pregnant with my brother. And we at home had I've quite a lot of sisters, but at home we had my sisters who were 5 and 6 or 7. Trying to do quick maths in my head. 5 and 6, and I was 8. And so my mum was pregnant. So I basically, and I remember it very vividly, and I have spoken about this before, very vividly put in, not doing anything creative anymore. And I had this doll called Natalie, which actually Jackson plays with now. It's a doll that my dad gave to me when I was about 2. Picked up my doll Natalie and started carrying her around like a baby. And that was the end of that. And I started, became a young carer for my mum. As you can imagine, she needed, she had 3 children at home and pregnant with her 4th. And we didn't have any money. We were on benefits. It was that kind of situation where we'd be halfway through cooking dinner and we'd run out of gas or electricity, and we'd have to have cold baths and, turning the lights off all the time, sitting in the dark, that kind of thing. Never enough food to, or decent enough food. And I was going to actually mock myself then, so I'll get the violin out, but I'm only telling facts. So I was a young carer until I went to university at 18. And then I never went home again. It's that's a story for another day. And so I did dabble in creativity. I used to make loads of clothes at work, at university. And before I went to university, I used to go to Primark and get the extra large men t-shirts and then make a dress out of them. It wasn't a long dress, but I liked a short dress back then. And I would paint these faces on the front of things. And yeah, and then I started a business called Violet and May, which I ran for 4 years when I was about 25. And I loved that. And I made all my friends jewelry and I did little craft fairs. I did like Tupperware party things around people's houses. And I did have a website. I didn't really sell much on the website and sold stuff through Facebook. But that sort of folded when I became a teacher. And then I became creative again when I had Jackson. And and that's where Vivid Why came from. I've just literally like, what is my thread? I know what I was talking about, creating warrior energy. The reason my dad is such a big part of my story is that obviously he was my dad. And I mentioned on my stories on Vivid Wire on Monday, you know, when he's gone 29 years, is it still okay to be sad? Are you still allowed to give yourself that time? And I had so many messages. I was inundated. I can't, honestly, it was like almost 100 messages of people just saying, thank you. You know, not thank you, but just, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. I've lost my dad. I've lost my mum. I've lost someone close to me. Grief is, you don't get, you know, you just learn to cope with grief. You just grow around it. A few people sent me the sort of analogy that grief is the feeling of all the love that you couldn't express. I've just flashed into my mind a friend of mine who listens to this every week, and I know that bit will get to her. So I just gave her a hug in my mind. But even though I had a really heavy heart on Monday, I wanted to share that I was feeling sad because some people may feel the same. You know, I had one message from somebody saying, my mum died 4 years ago and I feel like I need to get over it. And I remember I've gone through phases like that. And actually one person had said to me once, shouldn't you just be getting on with it now? Like your life's great. And that voice was very loud in my mind on Monday. I must say that person is not a very good friend. But that whole like feeling of, should I show up? Like, what do I do? Now, obviously, if grief is so raw, it's very difficult to show up for yourself and your business. I mean, I'm not saying pushing yourself, but having warrior energy in those heavy heart days, I found I had a lot more resilience to the pain. And I was proud of myself, very proud of myself for two reasons on Monday when it was the anniversary. Number one, I still did some of my toolkit for my warrior energy. I got up, I wrote my morning pages, I listened to my tunes. Did I walk? No, I didn't walk actually Monday. I put lipstick on. Like I did a few other things and made sure that I did some of my toolkit. Maybe I did walk. Anyway, that's boring. And so and there was one point I literally dropped coffee all over the floor, and the old me, the version of me that would have probably just buried herself in bed on a day like Monday with a heavy heart, the part of me that had that reserve of warrior energy because I practice it every day even if I'm having a good day, went, oh, you just dropped that coffee and it was over. The old me would have sobbed. And I'm not joking. I would have been like, oh, for God's sake, well, you always do that, drop that coffee, make a mess, for God's sake. No. And beating myself up about it to make myself feel even worse, even though I was feeling like that. So I was thought, oh God, that's quite a change. Well done, Claire. That's that warrior energy, that reserve of warrior energy. I feel like I fill my legs up with warrior energy when I'm feeling good. So I can tap into the reserves when I've got a heavy heart. And the other thing was that I mean, I love a glass of wine. You know, there's not many people that don't. I'm not a binge drinker or anything like that anymore, not like I was in my younger days. But definitely when I've got a heavy heart, as soon as that pain hits your chest, I'd be like, oh God, I really need a glass of wine, like to numb it. And I sat there and I thought, I teach about feeling uncomfortable and putting yourself in situations where you feel uncomfortable to get through the other side. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with feeling this pain. I lost my dad. Like, and also the result of losing him and all of the other things that happened after that, which again is a story for another day, all of those things made me who I am, but they hurt. Like, that's trauma. That's what happens. It really, really hurts. And actually burying that pain is not very healthy. So I sat with it, and I actually, this is again really proud of myself. I was sort of like said to my husband, I'm really hurting. I'm really hurting. He was like, what can I do? I was like, I just want to cuddle. And he just like, you go and relax, you get a cup of tea, you know. And I let him look after me. Again, that is progress for me. I was be like, oh, I don't need any help. I'm fine. I don't need anything from any of you. But it made, you know, he feels powerless. He knows it hurts. So I let him look after me. And I just sat with this pain. And after it sort of the wave left, as it does, because once you hang on there, all of the wave of grief is sort of subsided a bit. And I said to him, do you know what? I'm so bloody proud of myself. I think that's the first time in years that I've felt that pain in grief, and I feel better for it. Now, whether or not whether the fact that I had built up my reserves of warrior energy so that I could sit in that uncomfortable space so that I could feel better for it, or the reserves of warrior energy meant I knew I was going to feel okay. I could be in that position of feeling uncomfortable with the pain and it be okay. I don't know which one of those it is, but I definitely am very proud of myself. That's probably the thing that I'm most proud of this week, that I sat with the pain of my grief and I was okay. And I let myself be okay with being in pain. I mean, how often do we allow ourselves to just feel an emotion without trying to distract ourselves with a glass of wine or scrolling on our phone or working I mean, there's loads of things that we do to distract ourselves, isn't there? So this is why warrior energy is so important. And especially if you're running a business. I bloody love it. I've the Vivid Club opened this week. That was very exciting. We've got our new members in there. If you'd like to join the Vivid Club, you can on the 25th of March. Lovely to have you. And it's £32 a month. It's gone up now, but was part of the first thing I ask all new members to do is to start creating their warrior energy toolkit. And that's the first thing. Everything is paramount on creating that warrior energy for yourself in your own way. So yeah, I'll tell you what, I thought I was going to cry talking to this then. I'm proud of myself. I didn't cry. Love it if you could leave a review or get in touch. Tell me if you enjoyed the episode. I'm still going with this podcast. I do have a lot of good feedback, but I'd love to hear more. And I'm also, do you know what? I've just forgotten what I was going to say. It was literally going to come out of my mouth and I've forgotten. I'm such a pro, aren't I? I am having a few weeks off over Easter, but that's not yet. And if you're interested in working with me one-to-one, I do offer coaching for small businesses and mentoring programs, but I also do offer life coaching if that was something that you were interested in, because if you don't run a small business. There is information on my new website for all of my coaching and the membership, the Vivid Club. The address is www.thevividclub.co.uk, and all the info's on there if you fancy having a look. Right, I'm working late tonight. It is the day before I'm publishing. It's Wednesday night and I need to do a little bit of work, but thank you for listening. That was a very personal and vulnerable episode, but sometimes we need to share that so that people know it's okay for them too. And that's how we share, isn't it? It's how we build communities and build relationships, just to share and be vulnerable and say, this is how I'm feeling. And if anybody else is ever feeling like that, they know it's all right to feel that way. There you go. Well, thank you for listening. And I hope you all have a lovely week and speak to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast, written, produced and hosted by Claire Hill, and music has been composed by my brother Phil Vidler.